magazine. And so I'm glad that you have a little bit of background on what I've been through and who I am. I'm going to talk you through a little bit of my experience. I have a slideshow to share. I figured that would be more fun than looking at my face. So I'm gonna share my screen. If hopefully this goes smoothly. Of course, it's already not going smoothly. Okay, here we go. Okay, can everybody see a picture of a bike race? Is that a no?
I don't see it yet, but I think I will. I made you a co-host, and that might help.
Okay, let me try again. Sorry for the.
Try it again.
How about now?
We don't see it.
Okay.
It might be, Bernie, are you using multiple monitors? Because sometimes if it's showing up on your other monitor, it won't show on the main monitor, we've been finding.
Okay, let's just move this window over here. Sorry, I know this is not.
No, it's Zoom. This is our life now.
We're super patient with this.
Well, thank you for bearing with me. Okay, let's see if I can figure out how to do this. Okay, can you see that picture now?
No.
All right, I think we're gonna have to can that. I will paint you a word picture.
You know what you could, Bernie, do if you want to send it to Erica really quickly, or me, and we can share it.
Okay, I'm sorry to take up everybody's time with this.
You're fine. We have plenty of time.
Totally fine. We're good. This is par for the course these days.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a Google presentation, and I'm gonna share it with you and Heidi and Erica, with both of you.
Okay.
So hopefully you'll get an email any second now. And while we're waiting for that email to come through, I just wanted to say to everybody that I was grateful to hear from Erica, because I feel that physical therapy has been an incredibly important part of my journey. It's not a field that I knew very much about prior to my injury, but for the last 10 months or so, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of physical therapists who have really done an incredible job helping me get back to where I am now, and help me to keep focus on improving continually. There it is.
As Erica has got that on, I think. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Erica.
Sure.
So I figured I would start from the beginning. I am considered an elite amateur bike racer. I focused primarily on velodrome racing for the last 6 years or so, although I also raced a lot of road. That's me in the yellow skin suit and the red bike. This is at Elite Nationals in 2016, which is kind of the height of my athletic achievement. I finished 8th in that race. So I was, 8th best track racer in the country. And that was, getting to that level took an incredible level of dedication on my part. I was never a full-time athlete. I always had a job. So I was training at night and on weekends, and then, using vacation time to race, to do races like Elite Nationals that require more time. And I got to a level where I was competing against people who were Olympians, people who were Olympic hopefuls, people who were full-time professional athletes. And I'm not someone with a lot of athletic gifts, so just getting to that level was a very gratifying achievement for me. And it's one that, that I worked towards for a long time. And I was able to maintain that level of racing for a few years. If we could go to the next slide. This is from Elite Nationals last year, 2019. They were in LA. And it was over the July 4th weekend. As it turned out, it would be the last big race that I'd do. I flew home from that race, and then just a couple of weeks later, I was hit by a van here in Boulder while riding home from our local velodrome on a Saturday afternoon. As you all read in the Outside magazine essay, it was a very traumatic crash. I had more than 30 broken bones, including ribs, my pelvis, tibia, fibia, proximal humerus, medial malleolus, and several vertebrae in my spine. And in addition to the orthopedic injuries, I had 2 collapsed lungs. I had very severe bleeding in my pelvis, bleeding around my heart, lacerations on my liver, and a concussion. Could you go to the next slide, please? So this is a picture from the hospital. That's my fiance, Gloria. This picture was taken probably the next day after the crash, or maybe 2 days after the crash. You can see I was on a ventilator, C-spine collar, and then when this picture was taken, I hadn't yet received any orthopedic intervention, but I would end up with external fixation on my tibia fibia and my femur and my pelvis. And then those bones were all ultimately fixated, which we'll see. I'll show you guys some x-rays. If we go to the next slide.
Erica, can you make the picture a little bigger?
Yeah.
Maybe pull down the notes or something there. Yeah, that was just a request. I want to make sure that people can see it.
And we can certainly share this presentation with the class afterwards. This is, pelvis X-ray. You can see there's 6 screws kind of pinning everything together. Then you go to the next slide. This is my proximal humerus on my left side. I also broke my right clavicle, but that was a relatively minor injury that didn't receive fixation. Go to the next slide, please. This is tibia fibia. And then finally, this is my spine. Fixation of my spine required 2 surgeries. There was the posterior fixation where they put in those pins and those rods from the back. And then there was a anterior fixation. Oh, not yet, sorry. Anterior fixation, which is that little kind of rectangular shaped blob there that kind of replaced some of the vertebrae that was just fractured and pulverized and couldn't be repaired. This fixation goes from about I think it's T8 to L3, and my spinal cord injury is at L2. So relatively low level. Spinal cord injury wasn't diagnosed immediately. It took them a few days to kind of figure out the status of my spine. I feel I did also have a fracture in my cervical spine. I feel incredibly grateful that fracture didn't touch the cord. But as it is, I have a spinal cord injury that affects my left leg. My upper left leg above my knee has some function. My quad is coming back pretty well. My hamstring is very, very weak, and my glute is kind of in the middle. So that's been a major focus of physical therapy, is trying to get those muscles working better. And below my knee, I have no muscle activation at all. Hopefully that will change over time, but as you all may know, with a spinal cord injury, there's just no saying how long it may take. And my bowel and my bladder and sexual function are also affected by the spinal cord. And I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have on that at the end. Okay, now we can go to the next slide. It's me and my teddy bear Fluffy. As I was in the midst of kind of being brought out of anesthesia, out of sedation. I was sedated for about 8 days, completely sedated. And at the end of the 8 days, I started to come out of the sedation, but was very confused. And it took me probably 3 or 4 weeks to get kind of back to a clear-headed state. And that was just the product of the sedation that they had to put me under due to the intubation. And then also just, I underwent 10 surgeries in 17 days. I was just kind of constantly in and out of anesthesia. Of all those surgeries, I only remember 2 of them. not that I remember the surgeries themselves, but I remember the pre-op procedures when they did the anterior fixation of my spine, and then also when they repaired my humerus, which was the last of the orthopedic surgeries. Okay, can we go to the next slide? So this man is Tim Galach. Tim was the man who found me on the side of the road. He was very concerned about my fate. He called the ambulance came and took me away, and he wanted to know what happened. So he guessed that I had been brought to Good Samaritan Hospital, and he went there the next day and asked about me. They said there was no one there by that name. And of course, I hadn't been brought to that hospital. I was at Boulder Community Hospital initially, and then I was very quickly flown to Denver Health. Tim eventually thought that maybe I was at Boulder Community Hospital, so he went there, and they told him, yes, that person was here. He is no longer here. And Tim said, well, is he alive? And they said, we can't tell you that. So, good on them for following HIPAA regulations, but Tim was concerned. And then a few days after that, there started to be some media coverage in the news about my crash. Police were looking for the vehicle that hit me, and it was covered in the news that I was at Denver Health. So Tim went to Denver Health, presented himself, and said, "I'm here. I'd like to see Andrew Bernstein." And I was at that time in the ICU and completely sedated. And they said, "Well, sorry, no. But his family is here, or his family's not here at this moment, but they have been here. Would you like to leave a note?" So Tim left a note with his phone number and kind of said, like, "Hi, I'm the guy who found Andrew. Please call me if you'd like." And so we did, and I was able to meet Tim and his wife. A few weeks later, I had been transferred out of Denver Health to a long-term care hospital, which is where this picture was taken. And if we go to the next slide. That's Gloria and my brother Eric, again at the long-term care hospital. I feel very, very fortunate that I have a large network of supporters. Gloria has been the most constant, and I get choked up just thinking about this stuff. But Gloria's been the most constant person by my side, partly because she's stuck with me, but also because she wouldn't choose anything else. My brother Eric lives in the Bay Area in California, and he got on a plane the same night I was hit, and he arrived in Colorado, like 7 the next morning, and he stayed for 5 weeks and took care of me, and was really instrumental in kind of guiding the effort to try and locate the van that hit me. And then in addition to these two, my dad was around for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I just had lots of friends visiting me from the East Coast where I'm from, and from other parts of the country where my friends have spread to, and of course my Boulder community has just been incredible. So I feel very fortunate to have been supported by so many people, and it really was an important demonstration of how important it is to have people not only to support the patient but also to advocate for the patient. And that's something that I've had to learn to do for myself now as I've gotten more independent. But I'm so grateful that I had Eric and Gloria doing that for me when I was unconscious. Okay, can we go to the next slide? These are some nurses that took care of me at Denver Health. I was able to go visit the hospital back in February before COVID. Denver Health asked me to kind of make a promotional video for their orthopedics department, which I gladly agreed to do on the condition that I got to use it as an opportunity to meet some of my care team who I don't remember. And so these nurses took care of me when I was in the ICU, and I have no memory of that time at all. But they remembered me. They remembered my case. They remembered my family being around. They specifically remember my brother doing push-ups on the floor of the room. And I was so grateful to get the chance to go down there and meet them in person and thank them for their efforts to keep me comfortable and keep me alive and make sure that I got through that period and got on to more important parts of the recovery. Okay, could we go to the next slide? So I started physical therapy when I was at the long-term care hospital. At first, physical therapy was just sitting up, and then later progressed to transferring myself in and out of bed. You can see at this time I was using a power chair. And then eventually started being able to stand. And so here I am with a physical therapist at the long-term care hospital, kind of just practicing standing up. And then as now, my right leg is perfectly healthy and unaffected and does most of the work. And a lot of my physical therapy is just focused on getting that left leg to do more. And that's what's happening here. We're trying to get the leg to kind of extend. At this time, the muscles in my leg were all just trace. They weren't functional at all. I'm so grateful that I've progressed beyond that. So after I was at the long-term care hospital for about 3 weeks, and then I was transferred to Craig Hospital down in Englewood, which you all may know specializes in spinal cord injury rehabilitation and traumatic brain injury. At Craig, I was improving, and I was able to get into a manual chair, which I definitely preferred. And at Craig Hospital, once you demonstrate some competency, they let you leave the hospital. They kind of let you come and go as long as you tell them where your schedule is. So here's Gloria and I think this is the first time we left the hospital. So at this time I'd been hospitalized for probably 8 weeks or so. Hadn't smelled the fresh air really. So it was super exciting to go out into the world, and we went out to dinner. And despite the wheelchair and I was still wearing a big boot at that time, and despite the C-spine collar, it was pretty exciting to be out and about. And if we could transition, there's another picture from Craig just getting started on physical therapy, trying to rebuild some strength in my arm. Craig Hospital is pretty intensive. They do anywhere from 2 to 8 hours of therapy every day. It was exhausting. I'd get back to my room at the end of the day and just be sweaty and tired, and not sure I was ready for the next day, but it was good to focus on the forward motion. And we can go to the next slide. Just a picture of my cat, because everyone should see my cat. And then we can go on to the next one. So the big goal of my time at Craig was to start to ambulate. And it was clear that I wouldn't be ambulating without assistance. So they had me using a KAFO brace that I'm wearing in this picture. And at first I would use it just in therapy, and I would practice walking with my physical therapist, and we'd make it 7 or 8 minutes, or maybe 10 minutes, and I'd walk to the end of the hallway and back. And then I demonstrated enough competency that they would let me walk around the hospital outside of therapy hours with Gloria. And so this is one of the first times we did that. I walked 5 laps around. You can see I've got 5 fingers up, walking 5 laps around the unit where I was living at Craig, which at the time was by far the furthest distance I'd walked. And I was using a walker, and Gloria would walk behind me pushing my wheelchair just in case I got tired or collapsed. That was a pretty major achievement for me. And I've gotten to the point now where I haven't yet really found the limit of how far I can walk. I've been trying to walk longer distances on the weekends. The furthest I've walked was like 3.25 miles. I think I could have gone further, but I've moved slowly. I think my top speed out in the real world is like about 2 miles an hour, or maybe even a little bit less on rough terrain. So it's you have to find time for all the therapy in addition to everything else that I'm doing. Can we go to the next slide? So I was inpatient at Craig for 3.5 weeks, and I was discharged to their outpatient program. This is me with a woman named Natasha DeVerona, she was my outpatient physical therapist at Craig. I worked with Natasha from October to January, and she got me walking confidently on crutches instead of the walker, and she got me functional in the real world, and we helped increase my walking pace to a point where it was at least safe for me to do things like cross the street. She also did a lot of manual therapy with me. I have, because of my the strange presentation of my injury where my left leg is paralyzed and my right leg is healthy, I just get very severe imbalances that present in my glute and my lower back, and basically, throughout my pelvis. So, she did a lot of needling, a lot of stretching, and all of that kind of helped to alleviate the pain that I was in, but it all, more importantly, let me focus on improving my strength because I wasn't just distracted by being in pain all the time. Can we go to the next slide? This is up in Rocky Mountain National Park. This is the day after I was discharged from Craig. And Gloria and I moved back home. I was hospitalized in total for almost exactly 3 months. So it was great to get home. And one of the first things we wanted to do is kind of get back to life, which for us is being out in the world. My uncle and his girlfriend were visiting, so the four of us went up to the national park and went for a walk. I think I walked about a mile at this time, which was exhausting. It was not enough distance to get all the way around this lake. I think we made it about a quarter before we had to turn around. And you can see my uncle was pushing my wheelchair with us just in case I needed it, although I didn't. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So at this moment, I'm doing physical therapy at 3 different facilities. And actually, I just came from altitude physical therapy here in Boulder, which is, I primarily go there for manual therapy, but I also was walking on their Alter-G treadmill. This picture was taken at the CU Center for Sports Medicine here in Boulder. My physical therapist there is named Lindsay. She's in the pool behind me. I worked with Lindsay in the pool for about 3 months, just practicing walking, practicing standing, doing lower leg exercises, working on balance. In this picture, I'm using a kickboard to do a deadlift. And in about February, Lindsay said, listen, I think we should transition to land, as we call it. She felt I was strong enough that I would be able to exercise in gravity. And that's been since about February. That's really been my focus. I see Lindsay weekly. During quarantine, that facility was closed, so I was seeing her on Zoom, and basically she would just update my home exercise program. I'm very grateful that they're open now and I'm able to see her in person again. It's much more effective for sure, although I'm grateful for the efforts on Zoom. Okay, can we go to the next slide? So here I am riding an exercise bike at the gym. This is, again, over the winter before COVID. You saw at the beginning of the slideshow, I was an extremely dedicated cyclist. I raced at a very high level. Getting back on the bike is an important goal. I haven't achieved it yet outside, but starting in about January, I realized I was able to get onto stationary bikes. You can see how atrophied my left leg is here. But it's been great just to be able to ride indoors. And I've been able to do that at home during quarantine. It is shocking how quickly I lost all of my, not just my fitness, but just the comfort of being on the bike. Of course, the fusion in my back makes it very uncomfortable to be in this kind of aggressive position I used to have on my racing bikes. So I've had to adapt. But even so, it always feels good to get on my bike and pedal. And it's also been a great modality for cardio exercise. I can't really move my leg fast enough walking to get my heart rate up, but on the bike I can. So I'm glad to be able to ride, and I hope that I'll be able to ride outside soon. I believe I'll be able to do it in the next couple months. Can you go to the next slide? So we've gotten more adventurous. This picture was taken in Sedona, Arizona over Christmas. I will say this hike wrecked me. I was extremely sore for 2 weeks, just from getting my foot over this uneven terrain and having to use my right leg just a lot. But Sedona is beautiful. It was wonderful to be out there in nature. It was great to be, it was great to feel like I wasn't completely limited. And, we've continued to try to find my limit and try to nudge it forward without, occasionally I've gone too far and I've ended up in pain, but mostly I've been able to kind of move my limit forward without pushing it too far. And I also just want to point out that I'm wearing, in this picture, I'm wearing a KAFO that was custom made for me. The one you saw earlier at Craig Hospital was kind of a loaner from the hospital. I still use this brace. When I first got it, I would keep the knee joint locked if I was walking, and then I'd have to kind of use a lot of trunk to swing my foot through to take a step. I've now progressed to the point where the knee joint is unlocked, and I primarily wear the brace to prevent my knee from hyperextending and also to support my foot and ankle. Um, I will be hopefully transitioning to just the lower portion of the brace soon. My physical therapist want my hamstring to be a little bit stronger before I get there, um, but everyone feels confident that I'll be making that transition in the relatively near future. Um, and I have to say, from a patient perspective, having that knee joint locked and having to kind of walk by swinging my foot through from my hip flexors, and then transitioning to how I walk now, which is able to use my knee, is kind of life altering, honestly. Like, I feel like even though I'm still using crutches, I feel like my stride is normalizing, and it feels much more. It just feels much better to be um, able to use my knee. It feels much more like like it used to feel. Um, and finally, sometimes I fall down. In this picture, we got to a downhill. Downhills are really hard when your ankle doesn't work. And I kind of lost my balance and fell over. I was fine. I made Gloria take a picture of me. But I like to think about this moment just because, I like fell on my ass, but I also got up and finished the walk, and there was no lasting harm. I wish that I had more pictures of my actual physical therapy to show you. When I'm in PT, I'm usually pretty focused on the work. And not taking photos. However, I do have a lot of videos and photos of home exercises on my Instagram. If anyone wants to take a more detailed look, you can go to my story highlights and see lots and lots of the exercises that I'm doing at home, and some things from physical therapy, and more of my cat, of course. And I finally just want to mention that in addition to the manual therapy and the physical and the sort of more regular PT, I've also been seeing a pelvic floor therapist who's also helped kind of alleviate the imbalances. That's a kind of therapy I would never have heard of before this injury. I guess I could say the same for manual therapy, but those two interventions have really done just so much for helping me not live in pain every day. And that's kind of been my approach, as I see the pain relieving therapists, and then I see the physical therapist who helps me strengthen. And I'm kind of dedicated to this, I am dedicated to continuing this program for as long as I need to, although I certainly hope that I get to a point eventually where I can spend less time in physical therapy. And I should mention, throughout this process, I've met and been treated by several nurses and physical therapists who went through this program or went through Regis. And that was part of why I was very excited to visit this class when Erica reached out. Is I know how impactful you all are going to be when you graduate, and I'm honored to be part of your training, even a small part. So that's everything that I wanted to say. Heidi, do you want to jump back in?
Sure. Thank you so much. 10 months. Is that how long it's been, Bernie?
Yes. Yeah, roughly.
Can you just share, you touched a lot on PT and nursing. Who have been your interprofessional care team? How many specialists have you touched?
A lot. I have, I have a primary care provider who, is my kind of first point of contact for medical stuff. And then down at Craig, there's, the spinal cord doctors who are kind of the main sort of overseers of my case. But I found that, like, the best way to get therapy is just to network and to figure out who has the right set of skills for my particular needs. So at this moment, I'm seeing a guy named Aaron Knighton. At Altitude. He's my manual therapist. He's a Regis graduate. He went through the Regis manual therapy fellowship. He has a lot of spinal cord and neuro experience. So he's, in addition to being a manual therapist, has really helped me in bigger ways, helping me to kind of learn how to stimulate muscles that are not working, or to work out muscles that may be extremely weak due to the injury. Lindsay Nath is my therapist at CU Sports Medicine. My pelvic floor therapist is Terry Nishimoto, who she actually teaches in the CU PT program. And that's kind of, oh, and then I have a massage therapist up here in Boulder as well. And those are kind of my main people at this moment. But I had a substitute. I also have an exercise specialist who I see at the CU Sports Medicine Center. While they were closed, I had a substitute for that at a different clinic that was open. And then going back to my hospitalization, there were probably 9 or 10 physical therapists I worked with over the course of that time. So it's quite a large team that's helped me, and just on the physical therapy side, and then on the medical and nursing side, it's just an entirely other large, enormous set of people who've been involved in my care.
Thank you. I mean, what's clear to me is to navigate the healthcare system and to find a team on your own that addresses the needs that you have and your specific desires to really get back to an active lifestyle. It seems like it takes a tremendous amount of energy and time. I can't imagine.
It does. And I should say that I'm extremely fortunate that my employer did right by me. They took care of me. They continued to pay me while I was in the hospital and not working. And then when I came back to work, when I was discharged, they let me do it on a part-time basis and kind of let me direct kind of a slow build back up. And at this time, I'm still not quite full-time. I am at a point where I'm trying to move as much of my care as I can to kind of the early morning hours that I can get to work at, close to normal time, and then not have too many interruptions during the day. It is a challenge. It is a big challenge, and one that I kind of have to evaluate on a day-to-day basis. And beyond that challenge, it's also been hard to kind of find the right care team. I found Aaron was recommended to me by my therapist at Craig. He has been great. And the other therapists I see have kind of found just by networking. Someone asked what my profession is. I work in marketing and PR in the active lifestyle industry.
Thanks, Bernie. I'm going to ask you one more question, then I want to open it up to students. Can you talk a little bit about the emotional journey that you've gone through?
Yeah, the journey is ongoing. I think I understood very early that I was not going to be a bike racer anymore. I actually said that to my family when I was still kind of under heavy sedation. I understood that that part of my life was not going to be possible anymore. But I like the harder, and if someone had told me about this kind of an injury and this kind of experience a year ago, I said, well, I might have thought that would be the hardest thing. But in reality, the hardest aspect for me has kind of been the change in my social interactions, where, I had a lot of friends who rode bikes and we ride bikes together. That's how we socialized. And that's, not possible right now. And when I can ride outside, it's going to look very different. So that's hard. It's very hard. And it's been hard in my relationship because, Gloria and I used to ride together. We would ski together in the winter, and she still wants to do those things, but she also wants to be there and spend time with me. And so that's challenging for her as well. And I guess I am finding that I have to think about this every day and kind of, and just be open to the fact that it's an ongoing process, and that it's okay to feel any way about it. I lost my mom a couple years ago and kind of learned that same lesson during that experience. Like, sometimes I was sad, but like also sometimes I was not sad when maybe society would have thought that I should be. And this injury is kind of the same. Like, it is a grieving process, and grief is not linear, and there's just a lot of feelings that kind of come and go, and affect you in different ways. And I'm trying just to deal with what comes up on kind of an ongoing basis, and trying to take it easy on myself. And I do have a counselor that I work with, who's been helpful too.
Thank you. I want to give the students a chance to ask questions, because I'm sure there are plenty. So you can put your questions in chat.
I'll open up the chat window. Have I checked out the challenge athletes? I have not checked out. Oh, I guess, sorry, this is a private question. I'll answer it anyway. There are a lot of organizations that offer grants to people with spinal cord injuries or traumatic or life-changing injuries, and certainly that's funding that I'd like to pursue. I should also say that like the cost of all this care is just astronomical, and I'm fortunate to have private health insurance through work, and to be in a relatively stable financial position, but like it almost can't be overstated, like the financial burden of rehabilitating an injury like this. And I really feel for people who don't have as strong of a financial position as I do. What are my emotions around returning to biking outside? I am looking forward to riding outside. That's actually been a challenge the last couple of months when the weather's been good, is like, I've got my bike set up on a trainer at home. I've been making an effort to ride it, but then, when it's a beautiful day, it really stinks to be exercising indoors. So I'm really looking forward to getting outside and being able to ride outside. I spent a lot of time in my life riding on roads. I don't know that I'm going to, well, rather, I know that that's not going to be a focus anymore. I plan to stick more to kind of gravel roads and maybe spend more time mountain biking. I just don't really have much desire to be around cars anymore. And something else that I'm trying to do is reach out to drivers and help them understand why it's so important to be safe drivers. Someone's asking about the case. The van that hit me was found pretty quickly, actually. They found it in August of last year, and they are still investigating. They have not yet proven who was driving it. And that has really not been a focus of mine. I've really been much more focused on rehabilitating myself. I've maintained a relationship with Tim Galach, who found me, and he's a really loving man who talks to me a lot about forgiveness. He actually was hit by a car himself just a few months before he found me and had pretty severe injury. And he told me about how he was able to forgive the woman who hit him. And I would like to get to a place where I can forgive this person. I have also kind of realized that I think I need to know who it is first. So I don't really have strong feelings about like what I'd like the punishment to be. But I hope that the police identify that person. And I believe that they will, hopefully soon. What is the most helpful thing or things that your PT does for you to improve your spinal cord injury symptoms? So, I mean, the primary symptom that I face on a daily basis is there's two. There's the paralysis, and then there's there's nerve pain. And I'm fairly fortunate. Like, I know I made a lot of friends while I was at Craig, and some of them are dealing with things like spasticity and tone, and those make their rehabilitation a lot harder. I don't have those issues. So the nerve pain I treat with a medication called gabapentin, which is effective for me. And then on the paralysis, it's really just a matter of a lot of exercises, and then e-stim has been helpful to me as well. And then, of course, like the chronic pain I deal with is, I guess, a secondary symptom but very primary for me because it is present all the time. And manual therapy has just been incredibly helpful. Aaron, my manual therapist, again, he's a Regis grad. Like, he is probably the most important therapist that I work with. And, you know, to me, he's, I don't throw this term around lightly, but he's a god to me, just for his pain relieving abilities. Has my injury affected social relationships? Absolutely. You know, I talked about this a little bit. You know, many of my relationships were built around riding bikes, and that's all changed. And I was relatively new to Boulder when this happened. I moved here in September of 2018, and I was kind of starting to make friends through cycling, and you know, they're new friendships, and with a major change in someone's life, they kind of, I wouldn't say they fell apart, but they became not as close. So it very much affected my relationships. And even with, you know, closer friends who are, you know, stand by me, you know, to a fault, it's hard. It's still a change because we have to change what we do together. We can't just have like great adventures, and we can't just go skiing. And, you know, we have to change our social life to, I have a burden in that way. And that's hard as well. And I definitely think it's something I talk a lot about with my friends from the hospital. And it's something we all deal with because, you know, we don't want to be a burden. We want to enjoy our friendships. We want to enjoy time with our friends, but we also understand that, like, it's different now.
Bernie, I'm gonna just try to take care of our time. And I think I've been looking at the questions. I think I'm gonna choose modify one to sort of end on, and that is, how have you've spoken so highly of your physical therapists and what they do for you and their ability to help you with pain. Part of their effectiveness is your ability to kind of build a trusting relationship with them. How have your physical therapists supported you emotionally, giving you hope, and maybe helping motivate you?
Well, you know, I think the biggest thing is just that they've helped me to kind of focus on intermediate goals. You know, like, long term, I would love to get to a place where I can, like, walk without much support. I would love to get down to an AFO of some kind, you know, a lightweight AFO that isn't so heavy and bulky. I'd love to not have to use crutches. And yeah, as far as like being active, I'd love to be able to, like, go skiing again and ride a bike without having it be a huge production. And those are big goals. And, like, I think the PTs that I work with have kind of helped me focus on more on, like, the more immediate steps. So, you know, the big focus right now is to get in just the AFO portion of this brace. And that is, like, months away. And to get there, I need, like, my hamstring to be stronger. So, you know, the big goal right now is to strengthen my hamstring. And that seems like a tangible, manageable goal that I can work towards every day. Whereas some of the bigger stuff it's just so big, it's daunting and hard to focus on. And they also just continually remind me that it can get better. And that's been incredibly helpful to me.
Yeah, I mean, that was really evident in your slideshow with you having documented the steps in your recovery, and then to hear you talk about it as if you're a physical therapist yourself, the terminology you use and your understanding of what the next step will take, and then celebrating that, it's just really awesome.
Well, thank you.
You do that. And right now I'm going to just say thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it's been really impactful for our students to have this time with you, and I look forward to having you again in the future. Hopefully for this class, it would be really great if in a neuromanagement course in the future, we could have you come back and kind of share where you are now. So if you're willing, we'll reach out again and
please do. Yeah, I would love to come back, and it has been great to speak with all of you. I really appreciate your time and your questions. And if you are interested in seeing where I get to, please follow me on Instagram.
That's awesome.
I post regularly, and feel free to reach out. I try to respond to all the messages I get, and I'm always happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much, and good luck to you. We will reach out again.
Thank you.
Follow you.
Okay.
All right.
Take care.
Yes, you too. And
what is your Instagram handle?
Oh, it's at Bernie Tweets.
At Bernie Tweets. Okay. Because I might not have found that. Not that savvy.
And
okay.
if you go to the Outside Magazine story, there are some embedded Instagram images, and if you click through, you'll find my account that way too.
Great.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Take care. All right, everyone. We'll take a 10-minute break. Come back at 8 after 11. If you have not read the instructions for a simulation lab, please do that during this break time. And we'll come back and we'll answer some questions, and we'll move into the breakout sessions. All right, everybody's back. We have a few more minutes to kind of wrap things up. Anybody want to unmute and just comment on a lesson learned or a pearl or something you picked up that you want to keep with you in the future?
Heidi, my group and I were talking a lot about how it became more and more difficult to really integrate what you're hearing from your patient, and as Jake put it, like connect the dots and like figure out how you're going to route them the direction that you want to go. And I had to admit that like I felt like I was doing a good job reflecting, but it almost felt like I was bluffing, because sometimes I was just like, I can't really remember what they said because I was trying to think about what I was going to say next. And so that's definitely an area I want to improve on, is truly listening and being okay with like a moment of pause while I think and respond.
That's good. Being okay with the moment of pause. Sometimes that just creates space for the patient to say the next thing that they need to say, right? And another trick is rephrasing, right, and asking for clarification of what the patient just said. But it's so hard right now because you're trying to listen and you're trying to cognitively plan and use these strategies, and they don't feel natural. Does anybody else want to comment on a pearl or something they picked up that they maybe observed and said, oh yeah, I'm going to use that strategy?
I thought that asking the patient about how their current behavior might be what a con of their current behavior was really powerful. Mm-hmm. Telling them of how it might be harmful, they had to self-reflect and come up with it on their own. And I just thought that was such a good way for them to like see what the negative might be, because people get defensive if you tell it to them. So having them say it was really helpful.
Jenny, that is huge. That's our job, right? It's really just to raise the awareness of the patient, of where they're at and what's motivating them to move forward. And in this case, what might be a barrier. Let them say it and then validate. When I hear patient stories and I know, then they want to ask me, okay, what do you think is my future? If I've asked the right questions and I've listened, I will just validate what they told me they think their future is, right? So listen very carefully. This takes a lot of practice. Your next practice session is with the family therapy student actors. So hopefully you all, if you haven't, it's fine, listened to I've created an AEP of this assignment. It just basically goes through the assignment instructions. The instructions are saved. These are in, we don't reflect on this as a group until 6/19, okay? But someone in your regular breakout assignment groups, today was random, that was a little gift for those of you who wanted to change a pace. Someone needs to contact the family therapy student that your group is assigned to, right? So if you're in group 1, breakout group 1, someone contacts Paul Baumgartner, and you have to set up a Zoom recording outside of class, and Paul will take on the patient role in all 3 cases. And then you all will serve as PTs. There will be 2 PTs for each case. One PT does the motivational interviewing, and the other does an explain pain. So midway through your 10-minute interview, the PT that's interviewing says, would you be interested in learning more about what happens in your brain with chronic pain? And the family therapy student will say yes. And at that point, your student physical therapist explains pain to the patient, right? So there's 2 PTs in every scenario. You video record this. You are going to use, the patient is going to use the care measure that you used today. All the observers use the peer assessment form. And then there's instructions on what you turn in and then you turn that in pairs. Okay, so in interviewee pairs, the PT MI and the PT pain person. So read through this, make sure you understand it, contact your family therapy student, and then in the next couple sessions in class, we're going to be talking about explain pain, and you're going to be making videos. So you're going to get really good at that task before you actually have your interview recording session the week of June 8th. June 19th, we come back together and we use our time to kind of reflect and learn together about that experience. Anybody have any questions related to the assignment?
I have one, Heidi. It's about today's though.
Yeah, fine.
Are we turning it in like in our own and just have like all the names of the new people that were there?
Yeah, so thank you. So you guys were awesome. Thank you for just saying, okay, I guess this is our group. So just put all the names of the people that were in your group and turn that in. One assignment per group. And it's just the reflection. I just want to see what you learned, and it's pass-fail, of course. Any other clarification needed?
So for that assignment you were just talking about with the family therapy student, would we, our whole group, do a Zoom meeting and go through all 3 cases all together, but just 2 PT students are kind of working through the one case and then we go to the next?
Yes.
And the next.
Yes, exactly. So Danielle, your group of 5 or 6, you say, okay, 2 of us are going to be the PTs for case 1, 2 case 2. You're going to have some organization. You're going to say, what are our options for doing a video recording? Danielle, please reach out to the student, set up a time. Then you're all going to be part of this session. You're going to record the 60-minute session with the family therapy student with all 3 cases.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. And then you put that video recording link on your written assignment submission so that I have it.
And Heidi, do you have a preference on like gallery view or speaker view for the recording at all?
I like speaker view.
Okay.
That would be terrific. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. And feel free to email me if you have questions as you listen to the AEP, etc. It was a really good session. I know I ran over a little bit. I felt that Bernie session was so good, and I knew you all were all engaged. So thanks for sticking with it. And I'll stick around here if there are more questions or dialogue that you want to have.
Hey, Heidi, I asked a question in the chat. I was curious for the assignment A, B, or C. C also involves interviewing a family therapy student. I was curious, are we going to be paired for that?
Yes, good. So the assignment A, B, and C needs to be, you need to sign up by June 1st. And then I will, when I see who's signed up for C to do the interview, I will connect you with a family therapy student. So I'm going to look at those. Monday, I guess, is June 1st. I'll look at those and then I'll get in touch with you and tell you who you're paired with.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's about 20 people that haven't signed up yet. So hopefully you saw my announcement to make sure you do that.
Heidi, I do have one last question.
Sure.
For the interview for pain with the family therapist, the one that we're all doing, I reached out to ours like 2 or 3 days ago, and I haven't heard back yet, which I know is not super like a long time to give them. But if we don't hear back, should I send another email?
Yes, and CC me on it, because I will contact their faculty, Jody, and I will make sure that they're being responsive, because they know that's an assignment in their integrated health class for them to participate.
Okay. I'll give her the weekend and then I'll email her again.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Brianne.
So I was recording Heidi throughout that, and then now I think when we came back, someone else pushed record. Did you push record? Because I think you have to stop.